this morning. It's Forrest Willett here, and I would like to share my story with you of overcoming adversity. In 2002, I had an automobile for sale, and I went on a test drive with a gentleman who wanted to try it out. So I gave him the keys, and I sat in the passenger seat. And as he was test driving the vehicle, he was speaking to his son on his mobile phone, where he lost control at a high rate of speed. The car left the road and flipped end for end several times. And I woke up 10 days later in the hospital in intensive care with a catastrophic brain injury. And at the time, I did not know who I was, where I was, or what was going on in my life. My wife and my 2-year-old son at the time came to visit me, and I didn't even recognize them. My whole world was literally turned upside down in seconds, all just by someone speaking on the phone while driving. And what followed there was 5.5 years of intense rehabilitation. I had to relearn how to walk and talk, how to read and write. Everything was just brand new, as if I was a 2-year-old child in a 31-year-old body. And also what happened was I suffered with depression and anxiety, as I didn't see a great future for myself. So I thought, if this is my life, it's not a good place to be. So as I struggled with the depression, I would lay in bed for hours and hours on end, waiting for a therapist to show up to treat me with the treatments. And one day, as I was laying in bed, I was surfing through the television channels, and they said, coming up next is Jack Canfield, the co-creator of Chicken Soup for the Soul and the star of the movie The Secret, with his new book, The Success Principles: How to Get from Where You Are to Where You Want to Be. And I remember at that time pulling the blankets off of my head and sitting up for the first time. Something got my attention in a few years. And I thought, I don't know where I want to be, but I don't want to be here anymore. And I don't know how to get there. So as Jack went through the interview, he said, it doesn't matter your current circumstances, your background, or what you've been through in life. If you apply these principles, you can totally transform your life. He then went on to ask the audience, what would you do if there were no limitations, if anything were possible? What would you do? And as I lay there, I thought to myself, what would I do if there were no limitations, if anything were possible? Not only would I learn to read and write, I would become an author. And not only would I learn to speak fluently again, I would become a speaker and travel around the world. I would also overcome depression and anxiety and use my books and talks to help other people overcome these amazing obstacles. And I've achieved every one of those goals since then. It took me just over 1.5 years to read the book, because at the time I was just learning to read children's books. So I worked with my speech therapist every day, and I would read some of the book, and as I did, I would apply the principles in the Success Principles book. And within 1.5 years, my life totally transformed. I got off all medication for depression. I returned to school, and I started writing a book. And I've since become a #1 best-selling author with 2 books. My first book is titled My Journey from Hopelessness to Happiness, and the 3 words that changed my life. And those 3 words were, baseballs don't bounce. And the story behind the title is, at my son's 7th birthday, one of his friends gave him a baseball and a glove. As he unwrapped it, he threw the ball to the ground, and it just landed with a thud. And with a confused look on his face, he picked it up again and threw it at the ground. And again, it just made a thud. and his friend shouted, "Baseballs don't bounce." And right at that moment, my heart exploded. I had to go in the house. I broke down crying. I thought, wow, how is my son to know that baseballs don't bounce? I had never thrown a ball with him. Someone else had taught him how to skate. Somebody else taught him how to ride a bike. I had spent more time with my negative thoughts and depression than I did with my son. And that was the day that I said things are going to change. And they really began to change in a big way. And that began my journey of overcoming this depression. Now, over to you, Natasha.
Oh,
Do you
wow.
have any?
Forrest, thank you so much. You know, it's so beautiful to hear you share your story. And, you know, it is such an honor to have you here on Radio Works World to share with us today. You know, I feel completely blessed that you said yes coming on the show to, you know, inspire all of our listeners around the world. Um, Obviously, it was a huge privilege when I met you last year in Toronto. You were a keynote speaker alongside Jack Canfield, obviously the author of the Success Principles. And it was also the first time I was launching my book too, so it was a real big celebration. And at that time, I was so touched about your unbelievable calm aura and peaceful state. You know, it's not what life throws at you that defines you. And you've proved this. It's completely how you respond to life's experiences that make you who you are. And you truly are the miracle man, you know, because you are an unbelievable survivor. And it isn't just one brain injury that you survived, it's two, isn't it? How did you overcome both of those?
Yes, the first one happened when I was a child, and I went down the basement stairs and landed on my head, and I had what's called a subdural hematoma, and there's a blood clot in the brain. So they had to remove a piece of my skull to relieve the pressure of the brain. And if that's not done, then you would die. So it's been a real journey because there's been so much to overcome, and
Absolutely.
that and I've made it through remarkably with both. And it's really exciting for me to be able to go back to the hospitals and be a keynote speaker at the hospitals that told me that I would not live a productive life, and
Wow.
that I would be on these depression pills for the rest of my life.
Feels
And
good when you
now,
prove them wrong, doesn't it?
yes, very good.
And one of the books that you wrote, which I totally love the title on, is 12 Hugs to Happiness.
Yes, that was a book I had in mind for years, and as a child growing up, I didn't receive any hugs.
Mm.
Um, I grew up with a very abusive father, a very violent person, and for that reason, my mother left when I was about 6 years old, and she never came back. So growing up, I put up this invisible shield around me, and I thought the people that are supposed to love you and take care of you either hurt you or leave you. So as I put this invisible shield up around me, I wouldn't let anyone in because I thought nobody's going to break my heart again. And I had that shield up until I was about 40 years old when I first met Jack Canfield. And he shared something with me that changed my life forever. And he said, each day you need 4 hugs a day for survival, 8 hugs a day for maintenance, and 12 hugs a day for growth.
Oh, wow. So I've got it wrong then because I thought it was one for survival. I think I need to up my game.
Yes. And, and so when Jack shared, he said, well, get some hugs from people. And this was a conference room with about 400 people in there. And I was so much out of my comfort zone. I thought, I'm not hugging anybody. I don't hug.
Mm.
But something came over me, and I just let my guard down and allowed myself to experience it. And again, I broke down crying. I thought, wow, this is what it feels like to be loved unconditionally.
Mm.
And I've been missing out on this my whole life. And it was that day that I let that invisible shield down and finally let people into my life and into my heart. And it's totally changed my life and the way I live it, and brought so much peace and calmness to my life.
Yeah, and hugs are so powerful, so powerful. Didn't you write another book, The Emotional Success?
Yes, that's a book I'm working on right now called
Oh,
Emotional Success.
cool.
So it's
When do you hope to finish that one?
hoping by the end of this year.
Are we allowed to talk about it?
Yes, and so that book would share with people how to overcome all of these obstacles, because so often we suppress our emotions. We hide them, we keep them down, and I explain to people it's like a beach ball. That's your emotions, and you're at the beach or in a pool, and we try to push our emotions down under the water, just like a beach ball. And for a short time, you can do that. But as time goes on, it becomes harder and harder to hold down your emotions, and it will weaken you. You can't hold a beach ball underwater for 4 hours. It'll paralyze you, and eventually it's going to pop up and hit you in the face. And your emotions are the same way. You have to allow them to be shown and to be felt, and let them up, let people see them. And
Mm.
so often we hide behind professional behavior or a fake smile and pretend that everything's okay. And it's okay to share your emotions with people. Get them out. Uh, some of the key things that helped me overcome depression myself, number one was to talk about the problems that I was going through. Number two was exercise. And I don't mean going to the gym and running a marathon, just walking 30 minutes a day, every day. And I do that every morning. And I've had no signs of depression, no medication, nothing since 2007. And social interaction is huge. I used to avoid social interaction um, because it was so uncomfortable. Yet it was the problem, not the solution. So getting back out around people and speaking with people and sharing your feelings, and not in a bad way. Share your good feelings also.
Wow. You've learned to totally overcome every obstacle in your way. You've totally learned to believe in yourself, and also, in spite of your very tough start in life, you've learned to love yourself. How can you help our listeners really love themselves? What's the best piece of advice that you can share?
I would just say, really unconditionally love and accept yourself just the way you are. And so many of us say, well, we're not enough. You know, uh, I'm not fast enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. Well, maybe you have goals to achieve these different things. But if you can love and accept yourself just the way you are today, where you are right now, and say, this is where I am in life, and I have goals to achieve these other things, but I'm going to love and accept myself the way I am right this minute, and then set some goals and you can move forward from there. But if you can't love and accept yourself just the way you are, other people can't do it either. And people will see right through that. If you don't love and accept yourself, people will walk all over you, they'll abuse you, they'll take advantage of you. And it's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple that just to love and accept yourself. And often it's good to do a mirror exercise when you look in the mirror and say, what you really appreciate about yourself, and Tell yourself that you love you. If you talk to your friends the way you talk to yourself, you wouldn't have any. So if you woke up this morning and said, oh, my hair looks like rubbish, I have a pimple on my nose, and my butt looks fat in these pants, we say those things to ourselves. But if you went to your office and said to someone at work, your hair looks terrible, your butt looks fat in those pants, you wouldn't have any friends left. No one in the office would speak to you. But for some reason, we allow ourselves to beat ourselves up and talk to ourselves in those negative words. So it's time that we learn to love ourselves and talk to ourselves the way we talk to our friends.
I love that. Yeah, totally. I use mirror work. It's really powerful. And do you mirror work every day?
Yes.
Wonderful.
And it's important to let the people in your house know that you're going to be doing it, so they don't think that that maybe you've lost it if you're talking to yourself in the bathroom.
Oh,
Do you think, Forrest, that this need for validation, this approval you need from somebody else each time you want to make a change, each time you want to overcome a difficult time in your life, to overcome depression or anxiety, do you think that people could learn that actually they need no validation? Could people really, really understand in good time before they die and bear their dreams alive that actually it is me who I have to take responsibility for my dream. I have to take responsibility and charge of my vision, of what I want, of who I want to be in this lifetime. If out of the 6,000 different emotions we all have at our fingertips in our mind, we choose only 6 emotions a day, and we make a habit of using them as our main song, main narrative each day, that becomes a bad habit. So how could you, unless I know you've been through a moment in your life which was a very long moment when you forgot everything, and that really, I hope you don't mind me saying this, allow you to
No.
reinvent your life, to reinvent who you are, to discover the amazing person you are, the amazing soul you are. But most people, they have it easy. They don't necessarily need to make that change. They live in that time of their life when they just deliver what is expected of them, which is not them. So,
That's right.
so you see, anxiety, depression, sadness, and stress, they impact your physical health. But in your case, your desire to be more, your desire to be there for your son, your amazing heart, your pain made you influence your physical health, and you basically told the doctor that they were wrong. And perhaps you had a couple of opinion, and everybody said all the time, for the rest of your life you are going to be this and you do this, but you already known that you gave the driving seat to somebody else and that was the end of it, and you are not prepared to do that again because you learned. But there are people out there, our listeners, who are in a way luckier, or maybe that's their challenge, that they don't have that experience to understand that once you give your driving seat, you are giving away your powers. Once you are not the cause of your life, you become the victim, you become the effect of other people's decisions. So what is your key message? What could you share with our listeners so they understand that is a choice? Everything is a choice, and happiness is an inside job. It's something you have to get your hands dirty, go all in and figure it out and bring it out into the world. It's not about chasing anything, it's not about chasing goals, it's not about the next big house, the next big car. It's all about what you hold inside and was given to you for you to share it. I so love your book, and I think I'm so grateful that you share the the news about the upcoming book, Emotional Success, because I think this is all we need to understand, because success is your birthright anyway. But emotional success is the fabric of success, is what makes you who you are. What is the key message for our listeners today, Forrest? If you don't mind me asking, I'm actually begging, tell them what it takes to overcome distress, anxiety, and impact your emotional life in a way that will never look back.
Yes, I truly believe we are 100% responsible for our own happiness. We can't just sit around and say, well, I wish this person would come over, that would make me happy. You have to get out of your comfort zone and get comfortable at being uncomfortable. Whatever it is you want in life, give it. If you want more hugs, go out and give some hugs. If you want more friends, go out and be a friend to somebody. Don't just sit around the house. And I can do a quick exercise with your listeners and yourself. If you just hold your hands clasped together, like you always would just hold your hands together. And do you notice which thumb is on top, your right thumb or your left thumb? And now just separate your hands again and drop your hand down one finger so the opposite thumb is sitting on top when your hands are clasped together. And how does that feel?
Wow.
How does that feel right now? Awkward? Uncomfortable?
Good. Yeah.
Different?
Different, yes.
Yeah, different, weird. Now put your hands back the way you always hold them together. And how does that feel? It probably feels good. And that right there is why people don't change. Because that's your comfort zone. People don't want to feel different. They don't want to feel awkward. So they'll stay right where they are, just out of comfort. Where if you want to make any change in life, you have to get out of your comfort zone and feel different, feel awkward. And all change requires you getting out of your comfort zone. You can't just stay where you are and expect things to change. We have to move out of that comfort zone to bring ourselves happiness, to be loved and accepted. It just doesn't come to you. You have to work at things.
Wow, that was good fun.
Wow. And Forrest, you said many times, and I saw the picture when you put on your body this message, you deserved to be loved. I know that when you want a friend, you have to be a friend. I know when you want to be loved, you have to love. But I think it's more to it. I feel that you are saying actually, be love. It's not about falling in love. It's not about falling out of love. It's about becoming this spring of love and share it.
Yes, and
Yes.
just be love. And what I've learned from the incidences that I've gone through in my life is that there isn't one of us that know when our last day will be. And so I beg of people to be awash in love every day, because that's the way you'd want to leave the world. So many of us think, once I get the bigger boat or a bigger house, I'm going to be happy and I'll be content and feel loved. I share with people, just be love and give love, and you'll feel loving every day. And there's no greater feeling than that. And that's the reason that why people do everything they do is for the feelings. People, I ask them often, what will that bring you? Well, I want a new Ferrari. Well, what would that bring you? Well, then I'd have friends. Well, what would that bring you? Well, then I'd have loving people around me. So really what they want is to have loving people around them. It's not the car, it's not the better job. So get down to the core of exactly what is it. And so if you ask yourself that question, what will that bring you? Often you'll get down to the same thing, is that people want to be loved and accepted. And so that's why they do different things. They want to buy things, and you can achieve all that without buying, expensive things. You can achieve that feeling with no money. So just be love and share love. I'm fortunate enough that I get to travel around the world. In the last year, I've been to Dubai, India, Guatemala, and seen a lot of the poorest areas also, and people are so happy with nothing. And if you look into their background, what's going on? Well, they're outside, they're exercising, whether they're collecting firewood. They wouldn't call it exercising, it's just survival. And they're spending a lot of time socially interacting with their families. They eat together, and they're extremely happy, although they have no money. And we can all experience that by sharing love.
Yeah. That's so beautiful, Forrest. That's so amazing. Honestly, thank you so much for sharing with all of our listeners all over the world. You are such a beautiful soul and a wonderful man who, cares so deeply about helping and inspiring other people. And, for those people out there who are listening in, who are tuning in with us today, how can they reach you? If they want more of you, how can they find out about what you're up to next?
Well, they could go on my website is forrestwillett.com. And then they can also see YouTube videos. Just go to YouTube and type in Forrest Willett. You'll see it on there, a video that I won a trip to the Oprah Winfrey Show in 2012.
Oh, wow, you met my hero.
Yes,
Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow.
she came to Canada for the first time in 2012, and the tickets sold out in minutes. So they had this contest on that if you could make a YouTube video that will inspire people like Oprah, you win a trip for two to the Oprah show.
Oh, my
And so that was my mother-in-law's dream, was to go to the Oprah show, and I thought, what are the chances? Everyone in Canada could make a video, so I made a video anyway, and they phoned and said you won. So I was able to bring my mother-in-law and make her dream come true.
Wow, that's so beautiful. So you shared that with somebody else who you knew it would make a difference in their lives.
Yes.
Contributing is such a beautiful thing to be able to do, isn't it?
Yes, and each day I always share with people in my talks that I do 3 things a day. I do something good for myself, something good for my family, and something good for a stranger, without any expectation of anything in return. And what happens is those things do come back in return, and they come back exponentially. And so if you just did 3 nice things a day, that would all come back to you. And can you imagine what your life would look like a year from now if over 1,000 good things happened to you?
Wow.
I can tell you it's life-changing.
And that's really all about the law of attraction, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
So how would you say to our listeners, how would they go about starting attracting what they really want into their lives?
Start by just being kind to yourself, and then be kind to others. And it doesn't cost you any money. You can hold a door open for someone, or simply just give a smile to someone. I was in Philadelphia speaking in November, and this homeless man I met, I ended up having breakfast with him every day for 4 days, and gave him big hugs, and he said to me, I haven't been hugged in over 11 years. He said, most people don't even make eye contact with me. And that really touched my heart. And I thought it's so true. We don't make eye contact with people. So even just a simple little smile to someone and look them in the eyes, that could make a person's life, just make their life and their day amazing.
Yeah, because when you smile at another person, you're blessing them, aren't you?
Yes. And a smile needs no translation. It's interpreted by everyone. Even babies that are born blind smile and laugh and giggle. So we all have it in us.
Yeah, we do. So to become more like a baby, more pure of essence, I think, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And a baby doesn't judge. A baby will laugh and giggle and smile at you. It doesn't matter how much money you make, where you work. They just show unconditional love.
Mm.
Wow, Forrest. All I can say from all of us at Radio World and our listeners, we are very grateful. You deserve to be loved. And for our listeners, until next time, be kind with no reason. From all of us is goodbye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Forrest.
Thank you.